Have you ever wished you could have an experienced stepmom on speed dial? Somebody that you could pick up the phone and ask all the questions and who could help you through this crazy stepmom world? Well, today we're going to be talking to Kristen Skiles of stepmomming.com, and she's going to talk to us about all the stepmom things, including why stepmom coaching might just be the right solution for you. I'm Cameron. I spent years building my career and creating a life I loved. And when my Prince Charming finally showed up, he had 4 kids in tow. Fast forward through lots of mistakes made and lessons learned, step-family life was much more complicated than I realized. If you're looking for help with blended family life, you're in the right place. Welcome to the Stepmom Diaries, where we keep it real as we dish about all the things. This is your weekly dose of blended family inspiration and encouragement. You're not the wicked stepmother, so let me help you find your fairy tale ending. Come on, let's do this. I am so excited today to be chatting with Kristen Skiles, certified step-parent coach and founder of Stepmomming.com, and I have so many questions. When I got engaged and knew I was going to be a stepmom, I was looking for resources and there wasn't a ton of stuff out there. So I did the best I could and kind of stumbled along. And then at some point after Craig and I got married, I stumbled on stepmomming.com and joined the Facebook group. And then when I started my site and started to write about stepmomming on This Custom Life, I got to know Kristen a little bit. And she let me write a guest post for her. And we just had so much fun. And actually, it was Ruth Sukup who encouraged me to reach out to you, right?
I don't think I knew.
Funny. Yeah. So Ruth Sukup is a mentor of both of ours. And I was talking to her about niching down and doing more with stepmomming, and she told me that I should reach out to you. Kristen and I ended up getting step parent coach certified through the same program. So we've had lots of small world encounters, and now we get to work together on more stuff. Before I get too sidetracked, though, I will tell you a little bit about Kristen. She's the proud wife of Kevin and stepmom to 10-year-old Krista. And together they live in Dallas, Texas, where they share 50-50 custody with Krista's mom. Kristen has overcome insecurities as her husband's second wife, learned a million lessons the hard way as a step-parent, and been on a roller coaster ride with shared parenting. Kristen grew up as a stepchild with a strict and very involved stepdad and a long-distance dad with a few different stepmoms over the years. Couple that with the fact that she was business partners and lived with her stepdaughter's mom for a season, it's safe to say she offers a unique perspective. Yeah, we're going to talk about that. Kristen is a certified step-parent coach and founder of Stepmomming.com, an online platform dedicated to providing comfort and guidance to overwhelmed stepmoms by giving them the tools and inspiration they need to overcome insecurities and discontentment. Kristen works to show stepmoms around the world that stepmomming is what they do and not who they are, encouraging them to embrace their unique roles and truly love their lives. I love that stepmomming is what you do and not who you are. I just think that that's so great. It's such good wisdom. And you can find Kristen at stepmomming.com and on all the social media channels. Just search for stepmomming. And we'll have links to all the different places you can find her in our show notes, which will be at thiscustomlife.com/episode 5. So we've got a lot to cover. Let's dive in. So I'm so glad you're here, Kristen. This is so fun.
Yes, I'm so excited. I'm glad you could make this happen. I'm excited for your podcast, and I'm honored to be here.
Yeah, you're actually our very first guest. So this is super exciting for us.
Love it.
Let's start at the beginning. So tell me how you and Kevin met and like what your stepmom journey has been.
So when I met Kevin, I was doing all the things. I was like the epitome of independent woman. I had my full-time career. I was working my way up the corporate ladder. I was tutoring after work. And then when I wasn't tutoring after that, I would do my master's classes online. Like, wanted a relationship, but didn't want to make time for it, if that makes sense.
I'm familiar with that emotion.
So I was doing, online dating ish, like not super serious about it because, like, when it'll happen, it happens. I had a really bad relationship before finding Kevin and kind of wanted to find somebody, kind of didn't want to do it again, And so we met online, and his profile picture was a picture of him and his daughter. And I was like, oh, yeah, that had kind of been a rule for me. Like, don't want to do that again. Past relationship, that was the one where I got burned. Like, he had a daughter, and I was like, I don't know if I want to do this. But like, the more I read, and then ultimately the more I talked to him, I was like, oh, okay, he's worth making an exception. Like, I got to meet this guy.
We gotta try it.
And yeah, ever since then, we've been, inseparable. He was as good as he looked on paper.
That's always good, you never know, do you?
I know. I know.
So you were also a stepchild. I was too, and I think that so much of how I have approached being a stepmom was informed by that experience. Tell me about how that has impacted, the way that you have step parented and, how you have approached doing this.
Yeah, it's shaped how I step parent. I would say like almost completely. Everything I do, I feel like has been shaped by my experience as a stepdaughter in some way. So my stepdad, I think you mentioned it in my bio, very strict. He was very hands-on, and that was really off-putting to a child of divorce.
Mhm.
And so I've learned from that with my stepdaughter. I had one stepmom who washed my mouth out with soap, and like when she said,
No.
yeah, and when she said I love you, it caught me off guard. And so I've learned from that, like, obviously never wash my stepdaughter's mouth out with soap, like as if that wasn't a
I
given.
know.
Um, but then make sure, like, when I feel I love you, make sure I'm sharing that. And then I had a stepmom for 10 years. She ultimately, unfortunately, passed away from cancer, but she was there for such a huge chunk of my life that I was very close with. And she never treated me any differently from, her children, her daughter and her son. And that was a great role model for me. And then I had a stepmom after she passed away where she had 3 and my dad had 3, and then we were like the modern Brady Bunch. And so I learned a lot about blending families that, like, I don't have children of my own, but I feel like it helps me with my clients kind of understanding that dynamic. So it has seriously just shaped everything, like what to do, what not to do, who I want to be, who I don't want to be. And also just empathizing with my stepdaughter when I can see her acting out or feeling sad. I mean, if I can like stray for a second, one of her, like, just one day she was telling me, I love you. I love my stepdad, but I wish my parents were together. And and I get that. And I'm able to really empathize with that in a way that I couldn't have if I hadn't
I
been
think
there.
that's so true. That's so true, and I know that I have felt that, and I've had the kids say that to me too, and I understand it. It doesn't upset me because I remember feeling that way also, and you've got that like several fold because you've had, experiences with a number of different step parents, so that almost gives you like a supersized experience to bring.
Yeah.
Now you have an interesting dynamic with your husband's ex. You guys started your blog together, and at one point she lived with you all. I know there are definitely days when I would kill to have such a good relationship with my husband's ex, but there are also days when I'm like, maybe I don't need that at all.
Yeah.
Have you always gotten along so well? And what's been kind of the biggest surprise or unexpected thing that you have found in dealing with his ex?
Yeah, definitely haven't always gotten along with her. So you mentioned we started the business together. So she actually started the business right when we were in the middle of a very high conflict period. And she had, okay, so again, quick story because I feel like it helps set the stage. We were at Meet the Teacher for first grade, and mom and stepdad were there, and obviously Kevin and I were there, and everybody was vibing. We were getting along so well. I was like, what is this like turning point? And later that night, Kevin and I were served paperwork to modify the custody agreement, like just totally blindsided. And so,
Wow.
yeah. So that was August. In October, she started Candy Apple Mama, which was what the blog used to be known as. And it was completely run by her alone. And we were in the trenches of a custody negotiation. It felt extremely high conflict to me, having seen other people in high conflict situations. Definitely not as high conflict as it could have been, but it was vicious at the time. And so we ended up, Kevin approached her one day at one of Krista's soccer game or softball games and was just talking to her and was like, okay, what do you want? Like at the end of the day, what is the agreement that you want? And they could talk through it and they agreed on the big points, which was the hardest part of everything. And then they could work out the details. So we ended up settling outside of court, didn't even really have to make it to a formal mediation stage, which was
That's great.
nice. Yeah.
It's amazing what you can get when you just like have a conversation with someone and, kind of force someone to be human.
Yeah. Well, when that's an opportunity,
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
not always, but luckily in our position it was. And thank God for Kevin because he is, one of the most chill people ever. I am not. But he was able to set emotions aside and say, what do you want? And have the conversation because I'm not that person. I want to fight and I'm angry and I'm emotional and all those things. So luckily he's the cool the cooler one of us and he could totally handle that and his ex was receptive to it. And so that worked out for us. So that I would say that probably happened October, November-ish, right around when the blog started. And the relationship wasn't overnight better. We were now cordial instead of enemies. We were maybe frenemies. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's kind of what it feels like in this middle ground. So then in January, she was texting me one day of like, this is what I want my blog to be. Actually, she looked up to Ruth. You mentioned Ruth and was like, look at Ruth's her success, and this is what I want, but I don't know how to get my blog off the ground. And I said, well, I don't know blogs. I don't know blogs at all, but I know business, and I'd be happy to like share ideas with you. By the end of the day, we were business partners. And the blog transformed from like a mom blog to a co parenting blog. And that is my crazy long winded story of kind of how that came to be. What surprises me most, so we became kind of best friends through this, working together. We had so many mutual passions at the time. We're reading the same blogs to learn and building a business together, and we were really passionate about it. And so that was great for our relationship, but also we could talk about things. So we're writing about co-parenting. I could write about my struggles as a stepmom and give her insight into what that looks like. I
Yeah,
could
you're like
learn.
talking about all the awkward things without having the awkward conversations.
I can just write it down and she can go to edit the blog post and
Yeah.
read it instead. But I think what surprised me, so that went through Thanksgiving. Actually, Thanksgiving was the day she was like, I don't think I can blog anymore. I don't like writing. I don't like doing a blog. I think I want to do this instead. And so I bought her out of the business. It was completely amicable. It wasn't because we hated each other. So we were really close. And then when she left the business, we kind of drifted apart. She moved out, we drifted apart, and things got bad again at one point, and things were really good again at one point. And I think what just surprised me most about that relationship is like co parenting wasn't a destination, it was just a stop on this journey. And there's ebbs and flows. And there's ebbs and flows in every relationship. So I'm not sure why I thought that was the exception. But I think that's what surprised me the very most.
Do you think that having the business together has helped you guys in your co-parenting relationship and kind of having that foundation where you have a built-in trust for each other and, know that kind of you both are there for the right reasons and everything?
That's a really good question. I definitely think when we worked on it together, it helped our relationship tremendously. being able to talk about those things was invaluable. Post, like once we split and I rebranded as stepmomming and began speaking directly to stepmoms, I think if anything, it's hurt our relationship. If it's probably had a net zero impact, but if anything, it's probably hurt it because she's been upset by things that I've said, or I always try to be really careful that if I'm going to write about her or something that's happened with us, I want to send it to her first and get her approval because it's not always my story to share.
Yeah, totally.
But like one time I shared something that seemed so innocuous to me, and she ended up bringing it up months later, and it had upset her. And so I want to be genuine with my audience and I want to help stepmoms and like not from a holier than thou place. I'm like, I'm in the trenches. I want to help you from where I'm at. But I can't always share that because I'm trying to be respectful of everybody else in my story too.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's hard. That's the hard thing about doing this is really balancing the people in your life and making sure that, you're telling your story while being respectful to them. You mentioned that you are less laid back than your husband and that you kind of get fired up about things that maybe he doesn't get as fired up about. Tell me more about that because I feel like that is something that's common with a lot of stepmoms out there, and I know I have found myself in the situation where, something happens and, they are inclined to let it roll off their back. And you're kind of like, well, wait a minute. No, that can't be right. How do you kind of seek a balance there and figure out when it's right for you to take a back seat to what they want to do and when you really need to talk it out and, find a way to address it and, how you deal with all that.
Oh my Lanta. Yeah, I feel like this is something I work on every day and I'm getting better. And it's taken time and practice and a lot of mistakes to get to where I'm at today. Ultimately, trusting your partner to, they know their ex, they know their kid, and they may look clueless, but they're really not. They know what they're doing. Um, so for me, that was hard because, like I said, I was very independent. I knew what I was doing. I had very strong opinions. I loved control. And I didn't know why we weren't fighting for more control. And
Hmm.
so I wanted to encourage Kevin to take that back and to take the reins. And that's not his personality. So I was pushing him to do something he didn't feel comfortable with. And ultimately, that he knew wasn't the right path for us to take. And so I needed to just sit back and trust him to lead us through that. So that was the first part of it. And I think the second part is just, oh, I can hear stepmoms cringing as I say this, but like learning to pick your battles because
Totally. It's a huge part of it.
it seems like everything is a battle you need to pick. And it's really not. And I think with more time and experience, which again, they're cringing when we say this, but as more time passes, you know which battles are worth picking. So this is a perfect example, even just from today. So thinking back several years ago, my stepdaughter's mom had dropped her off at our house, and it was a cold day. I mean, we live in Texas, so it wasn't that cold, but cold to us. And she was in a short sleeve shirt, didn't have a jacket on. And she came up to the house, and I was like, "You poor girl! Like, do you need the hot chocolate? Do you need a hot bath?" And like, it was not that long of a walk, but it felt like this is neglect. I mean, that's not obviously what I said, but
Yeah,
it was like,
totally.
it felt, this is so wrong. We need to fight this battle in the moment. Today, my stepdaughter came back. It's cold here today, it's in the 30s or 40s, and came back in a t shirt and shorts. And I was like, girlfriend, what are you doing? What, put a jacket on. Like, what are you thinking? And she was like, oh, well, I just wanted to wear back the clothes that I wore to mom's before and just then they'd be here. And it was just so not a battle. It wasn't something I was going
Right.
to choose to pick today. But years ago, that felt like something we really needed to pursue. Why isn't your mom making you put a jacket on? And today it's like, because she's a kid and she's walking like 10 steps to the car, from the car to the door, whatever.
Totally. That's such a good point that you really need to kind of figure out what's worth the fight, and at the end of the day to remember that your partner really does know their ex much better than we do, right? and and know how the kids will react and all that kind of stuff. That took me a while too.
Yes.
Um, what do you think, kind of along those lines, what do you think has been your biggest struggle as a stepmom? And how have you dealt with that?
Not having control. Hands down, the hardest part for me.
Yeah, that's a hard one.
It is. It feels like it's so easy to feel like our life is dictated by a custody schedule, by the ex, by child support, by a custody agreement, down to when we can celebrate holidays or if we can go to little Joey's birthday party next Saturday. And that was so hard. Like, why does your past get to dictate our present? And so, how I've kind of coped with that today is realizing, well, I can go to little Joey's birthday party, whether she's here or not, and kind of n- making a conscious effort not to let it dictate my life
Hmm.
and setting boundaries so that that's how I've kind of taken back control when it felt like somebody else was getting into my bubble. I could set that bubble and you don't get to have that impact.
Hmm.
And I think the last thing is just like making a very clear decision to not live my life in response to his past. Sounds maybe counterintuitive, but I hadn't ever made that decision and I was falling victim to that. And so I had to make that decision for myself to not live that way. And it's been a life of freedom since.
And so how did you come to that decision? Because that is a hard thing, to sort of decide to live your life in a less reactive way. I mean, that's a really important decision for stepmoms to make because so much of our lives really is out of our control. How did you get there?
I had a breaking point. I had
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably not the answer you wanna hear, like, you hit rock bottom and then you can only go up, but one day I had a choice. I could choose to be completely resentful of his ex and that I felt like we were living our life in response to her, and I knew that was gonna end in divorce, or I could choose another way, and I know that Kevin is worth fighting for, and I know that Krista is worth fighting for. And I had to make that choice. And it was almost like once I gave myself permission to make it a choice, it had never felt like a choice before. Once I gave myself permission to make it a choice that I got to make, that was the first step to taking back that control.
Yeah, it's like you're taking back your power.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
I can
great. That's a great lesson for stepmoms.
I can almost hear like Rachel Platt's fight song happening.
Yes, totally. Which I'm tempted to, like, hum a few bars, but nobody wants to hear that. So you're a writer, you're a stepmom advocate, and you're also a stepmom coach. What is one of the most common struggles that you see with the stepmoms that you work with?
Oh my goodness, so many. I think if I had to pick one of the ones that I see so much is that we lack confidence. And we're coming into a role that's so overwhelming. And if you're even the least bit insecure, being a second wife is going to make that, tenfold. It's going to make it really, really
Yeah.
difficult. I faced insecurities that I just truly didn't know I was capable of in my first couple of years as Kevin's partner. So I really think at the root of a lot of the stepmom issues, confidence or insecurities can kind of be deduced down to that one.
It's so true. I remember when I first became a stepmom and Craig asked me to pick up his son from school and take him to a doctor's appointment. And I was like, "Are you really me? Am I allowed to do that?" You know, like, Craig was like, "Of course you are. Like, why would you not be? It's, like, ridiculous." So tell us a little bit about stepmom coaching. So why do stepmoms need coaching? How do they, come to you, and what do they get out of it? How's it different from therapy? Tell us all about it.
Yeah, such good questions. So, do I think you can be a successful stepmom without a coach? Absolutely. Like, hands down, I didn't have a stepmom coach. I feel like I'm a happy, successful stepmom today. But if you want to get there faster, if you want a step by step process, if you want to make less mistakes along the way, hiring a coach is going to be your way to having an easier route. So that would be why you would work with a coach. Coaching is different from therapy because in therapy, we're working on past trauma and really addressing what has made you who you are today and kind of helping you, I don't know, dig into old wounds and really fix that. With coaching, we see you as whole and you have what you need. You just need a little bit of guidance to get there. In coaching, I'm going to share research, I'm going to share tips, I'm going to give you all of my strategies for becoming a healthier, happier stepmom who has peace. And with a lot of therapists, they're not always trained in step family dynamics. And that can almost make things worse if they're giving you strategies based on a first family instead of a step family.
That's so true. Now, you just launched a group coaching program. Tell us about that.
Oh, oh my goodness. I'm so excited about this. I think my voice went up like 10 octaves. So, group coaching has four parts. The first part is the one that's the most obvious. We have weekly group calls. And the group, so if you get on the call, I start by having everybody share a win. I like to A, have everybody talk so you feel comfortable, but B, start on a positive note because the rest of the call isn't going to be rainbows and unicorns. We all know this. So then I do a roundtable. What's going on? What do you want to talk about? What are you struggling with? And I'll give my advice, but then you also have the other women on the call giving their tips or even just validation. Like, I've been there, I understand. So that's a big part of it. The second part is that I have recorded videos and I have them split up into 6 modules that are kind of on this. There's specific different topics that'll lead you to a life of peace. And I've recorded the videos for each different module that you get access to this course as part of it. So I can, reference that part or I can send you that worksheet to assist us on the journey. And it's just supplemental to all of our calls. The third thing is that we have a private Facebook group just for our coaching members. So if something comes up, so if we have a call on a Tuesday and now it's Friday and you need help and you're like, I can't wait till our next call, then you can hop into the Facebook group. Kristen, here's what's going on. Talk me off the ledge. And then I can give you, my tips in the Facebook group. So you've got access to me between the calls, access to our different group members, and we can all kind of build each other up. And then the last part is that we're also doing monthly one-on-ones as part of that program. So you get my undivided attention for 45, 60 minutes each month as part of that. I'm super excited about it.
That's a lot
It is a
that you're
lot.
giving folks. So is that something that is always available for women to come in and purchase, or is it only available during certain times or?
No, I mean, all the business gurus are going to tell you not to leave it open all the time. And I see that and I see the purpose of that from a business standpoint, but from a personal standpoint, if you need help, you need it now. And I don't want you to wait
So
until
true.
next spring. And so it's something I leave open all the time. You can just hop on a call with me and we can talk through if it's a good option. And if
Mhm.
I want to hear about your struggles, your goals, and if it sounds like it's in alignment, then I think we should move forward. If it doesn't seem like that's what's best for you, then I'll tell you that. And that's
Mhm.
one reason why I leave it open. I don't want people to make a rash decision. I don't want them to worry if I don't get in now, I won't be able to for another 6 months. It doesn't make the most business sense, but for me, this is a people business.
I was gonna say it sounds like it makes some human sense, you know? So for anyone that's interested in Kristen's group coaching, you can find out more on stepmomming.com. Let's talk about wicked stepmothers and
Mhm.
stereotypes, because that's something that I just always like to I'm always curious about what people think of stepmothers because there really are a lot of different stereotypes. What's one of the biggest misconceptions that you see about stepmothers?
I think the biggest one, it fits with the evil stepmother, but I think it's that we're self-centered. Like, stepmom comes in and she just wants her partner to herself and she doesn't care about the kids. And Cameron, I'm sure you've seen this too. Every every stepmom I've ever met is the opposite of that. She is so
Absolutely.
selfless and gives so much to her family that it couldn't be further from the truth.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when I mean, you've got 50-50 custody and we do too. It's especially when, you're with the kids and you really form your own family unit, I mean, it's definitely not a business for the weak of heart.
No.
So for someone who is about to become a stepmother, and I wish I had, sort of a guru as I was going through this journey, and I know you do too. But what would be the biggest and best piece of advice you would give them as they're about to marry someone with kids or to settle down with someone with kids?
Oh, can I do two?
Yeah,
Okay. The first one we've already talked about, but definitely trust your partner and let your partner lead you. And then the second one would be to trust your gut in what you need. So, setting boundaries, having self care, knowing when you need to take a step back, those are all gut feelings I had and ignored in the beginning because I had this idea of what a stepmom needs to be. And I didn't listen to my gut. I just focused on what I thought I needed to be doing. And it led me down a road I really wish I wouldn't have gone down, a road that led to resentment and burnout. So those are my two big tips.
those are good. I feel like the listening to your gut is a huge one for stepmoms. I mean, and the trusting your partner. I mean, it's funny. I don't know if you had this, when you first got married, but I know there were a number of times when I would sort of look to Craig and be like, well, what do we do here? And he would be like, well, I don't know. It's not like I've ever married a stepmom before. This is new to me too, and you sort of forget that they don't know what they're doing either. Everybody's just trying to figure it out. So it really is. You've got to pay attention to your gut. That's really good advice. Okay, totally off subject, but I always like to ask people, what are you binge watching these days? Because, we're all at home and, it's not like we're not all busy, but, we're all binge watching. So,
Okay, so I don't know if it qualifies as binge watching if you watch like one episode a night, but that's what we've been doing for as long as it takes. We've been watching How I Met Your Mother.
oh,
And
yeah.
I've seen it before, but it was just one of those that it's just light and funny. And sometimes life isn't light and funny. And it was just something we needed. So,
Oh, that's a
uh,
good one. Do you watch it with Krista too?
no, just Kevin. This is our couple time at night after she's in bed.
Yeah, that's good. As popular as that show was, I never actually saw it. So I'll have to put that on my list.
You have to watch it.
Yeah. Well, Kristen, this was so fun. Thank you so much for being our very first podcast guest. This was really a delight. And, Kristen is really kind of one of the OGs out there, of stepmom blogging and, online advice. And it's a world that I certainly didn't know existed when I became a stepmom. And there are a lot more resources out there today than there were when I became a stepmom and when Kristen became a stepmom. But KristenStepmomming.com and all the links that you will find on our show notes, which again is thiscustomlife.com/episode 5. They really are some amazing resources. And I hope you'll go check her out and join her Facebook group and look into her group coaching, because I can't think of anyone better to put together some group coaching than someone who's been there and been through it all, like Kristen has. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor to be on here.
That's it for this week. If you've enjoyed our chat, I hope you'll help spread the word. Share this episode with friends and head on over to wherever you listen to podcasts and leave me a review. And don't forget, for more great stepmom content, Head on over to thiscustomlife.com and follow me on social media. Just search This Custom Life on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Pinterest. Until next time, you keep being you and know that we are in this together. See you here next week.